Dominick Cruz was there at the Garden. Cage side, he joins us now here on SportsCenter. The obvious question for you, Dominick, is everyone watched this fight. No one wanted to see it end this way. But as a fighter, how can you argue with the doctor's decision if they looked at the eye and said that it was too bad for Diaz to continue?
Well, you can always argue as a fighter, but then I think there's a different way you can look at this, and it's both these guys were looking to do their job. Diaz's job is to fight no matter what is happening, and that is his job, and he stuck to it. The doctor's job is to save our eyes, save our bodies. That is his job. He stuck to it. I think the question to be in is, what can we learn from this as fighters? If you come to New York, this same doctor stopped Michael Chandler versus Primus in a fight, said his leg was broken, and they stopped the fight a little prematurely. Now it's happened here. So when you fight in different areas, if you get a cut as a fighter, we need to understand that this fight could stop at any given moment. We need to either look for the finish immediately and put the pedal to the metal, or really protect that eye, because as that fight moves on, he's just going to keep getting punched in it. Accumulative damage could ruin his eye, especially from all the past damage. However, as a fighter myself, you never want the fight to stop because of something like that. You want to go until you're either dead or somebody pulls you out of there, and that's not what happened, so people are disappointed naturally.
As a fighter, in your professional opinion, did you believe the cut above Diaz's eye was affecting his ability to fight?
I believe that it was not affecting his ability to fight as much as it could have if the accumulative damage kept building up. That is the doctor's job. That is what the doctor's looking at. Don't forget, he was closer to the eye than anybody, including Nate. Nate couldn't see his own eye. He's just willing to bust through it because he's one of the toughest men alive. All of us fighters are willing to grind through the pain and the blood and the agony. But the doctor saw it differently. He's got an education. You got to hope that they got the good doctors here to save us. But he also has done this before in the past, and we've got to know that these fighters are here to lay it on the line, put a show on. There's a lot of things in line here. A lot of us put 8 weeks of our lives, and to stop it for a cut, I think the doctors also get to understand what we've got on the line here as fighters.
Let me ask you this. I think everyone who saw this fight had it scored Masvidal 3-0 through the first 3 rounds, so that means that Diaz would have to get some type of submission or knock Masvidal out to win this fight. From what you saw through those first 3 rounds, what was the likelihood that Diaz was going to be able to make that type of comeback?
I think that if you watch Diaz, he's got the skill and the capabilities to always do that, especially in rounds 4 and 5. He's more of a marathon fighter. He waits for you to get tired before he goes for that finish, as we saw against Conor McGregor and other fighters that he's done so well. But against Jorge Masvidal, I feel he was a little behind, and Masvidal had a good edge. He hadn't taken too much damage. He was good with the distance. He wasn't going into the grappling. There wasn't a whole lot of things that Masvidal was showing a lot of holes. So if it would have gone 4 or 5, it would have gone any different, I'm not sure. However, everybody on earth would have loved to see it. And if there was a rematch, I don't think anybody's really going to be mad at it, but that's up to Dana.
Well, speaking of that, that leads me to my last question for you tonight, Dominick. Based on what you saw in this fight, how compelling would a rematch be?
That's the good question. I mean, after 3 rounds, it was all Jorge Masvidal, if you ask me. Pure control, the striking was there. When he took him down, he stayed safe, didn't get pulled into the grappling techniques of Diaz. So if that fight happened again, I don't see it going much different. But rounds 4 and 5 are the Diaz rounds. That's always what they've been. Rounds 4 and 5, if it goes into those championship rounds, they usually get ahead and make it a fight. And nonetheless, we would have had a fight on our hands. But man, Masvidal looked extremely sharp, on point, and he looked to be controlling that fight in every way going into that 4th round.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports and analysis, download the ESPN app, and for live streaming and special content, subscribe to ESPN+.